Okay. So we'll start with Lamai, the paper discussion. We just recap the area. We'll now go through the paper and see how it goes. Mm, okay. The mock paper, Lamai, you all will get it within, I would say, 1 week, like I said at the beginning of the class. Do you all make the short note? Yes. So is that played nicely blank and left where nothing is? So maybe you can make the short note after the discussion. After I discuss, then you can summarize the whole thing. Don't spend too much time on the short note. Also, it has to be something that you finish, I would say, in, let's say, maximum 1 to 2 hours, that you have kind of summarized it in your own words and you have finished it off. So, and also what you can do is, Lama, now within this week, unit 1 is done. So go through everything again and finish off unit number 1. So that next week, you can move into unit number 2. Okay. Yeah. So we'll start with the first one. The following diagram shows the production possibility curve defined over cloth and rice. If the economy changes its production point from A to B, which of the following statements about opportunity cost of cloth and rice is correct? So now the shape of the PPC is, Lama, increasing opportunity cost. But now look at this story. Now they are asking you what is having the opportunity cost of this and this. I'll put some numbers and shall I explain this to you? Initially, you're at point A. Okay? Then you're moving into point B. So let's say maximum you can produce 100 clothes. At point A, you were producing 90 clothes. At point B, you're producing, let's say, 50 clothes. Maximum you can produce, let's say, 200 rice. Here you're producing 75. Here you're producing 170. Tell me, okay, y'all tell me, when you're at point A, when we are there, when we are at point A, what is the opportunity cost of producing rice? At point A, Lamai, we'll read the graph. At point A, we are producing 75 units of rice. Because we are producing 75 units of rice, how much of cloth can't we produce? That's the opportunity cost. What's the opportunity cost of producing rice? Opportunity cost of producing, let's say, 75 units of rice. The opportunity cost of producing 75 units of rice is 10 units of cloth. Then when you go to point B, at point B, Lama, you're producing 175 units of rice. So what is the opportunity cost of producing 175 units of rice? Now, how much of cloth can't you produce? When you're producing 175 rice, you can produce 50 cloth. How much of cloth can't you produce? This 50 you can't produce. So opportunity cost of producing rice then becomes 50 cloth. So can you tell me, when you're at point A, take some time to think of it also. At point A, Lamai, you're sacrificing only 10 cloth. At point B, you're sacrificing 50 cloth. So what is happening to the opportunity cost of rice when going from A to B? When you're going from point A to B, the opportunity cost of producing rice increases or decreases? Initially, the opportunity cost was 10 clothes. Now the opportunity cost is 50 clothes. So the opportunity cost of producing rice has increased. You have to sacrifice more clothes. Then same way, Navai, we'll go the other way. At point A, what is the opportunity cost of producing cloth? So at point A, you're producing 90 cloth. Because you're producing 90 cloth, how much of rice do you have to sacrifice? Read the diagram. Because you're producing 90 cloth, you can produce only 75 rice. So how much of rice are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing 125 rice. So your opportunity cost is 125 rice. Then at point B, what is the opportunity cost of producing? At point B, you're producing 50 clothes. What's the opportunity cost of producing 50 cloth? When you're producing 50 clothes, you can produce 175 rice. How much of rice can't you produce? You can't produce 25 rice. So then when going from A to B, what's happened to the opportunity cost of cloth? Earlier, the opportunity cost of cloth was 125 rice. Now the opportunity cost of cloth is 25 rice. The opportunity cost of cloth has decreased. Cloth has decreased. So this is a product bit of a tough MCQ, not very hard, right? Something to figure out. So therefore, which one's our answer? Yeah, so you're moving from A to B. So at point A, you were producing this. So when you're going from A to B, earlier the opportunity cost of rice was 10 clothes, now 50 clothes. So clothes opportunity cost, sorry, not clothes, rice opportunity cost increases. At point A, when producing 75 rice, you have to sacrifice 10 clothes. Now you sacrifice 50 clothes. So the opportunity cost of rice increases. And then the opportunity cost of cloth. So earlier the opportunity cost of cloth was 125 rice. Now it is only 25 rice. So the opportunity cost of cloth has decreased. Not 2 is the other way around. If you're going from, let's say, B to A, then you can say 2. In case your paper should be there, the drive link on the day that you send, usually a little late, your paper gets deleted. If it's not there, just inform the admin. Yeah, some people also, I don't know, some of y'all also, I don't know, y'all, the drive link was editable link. Some of y'all also have gone and deleted the papers, even before I deleted the papers. You can also edit and I kept it there, so it's easy for y'all to download. Some of the students also have deleted the certain papers. If your paper is not there, is one thing when the paper is sent within that day itself, make sure you download the paper because we don't keep the papers in the drive. The other thing, if you by any chance missed it, just ask the admin. Right, that is done. What did you mention as B to A as well? No, so here they're saying point A to B in this question. Therefore, answer is 1. How many of you got this correct? It's a bit of a difficult MCQ. Something for you all to think and figure out. Good. Then we'll go into question 2. So question 2 now, they're saying, draw and explain how each of the following situations would affect the country's PPC. Take capital goods as x-axis and consumer goods as y-axis. Now, if they have told which goods to take, if you take the wrong good, you can't say good X and good Y, cars and clothes. If they have given you the good lama, you have to take that good. So here they have told capital goods as the x-axis, consumer goods as the y-axis. So you have to take it proper. And then the first one they say is reduction of inefficiencies. Reduction of inefficiencies of the production following a change in management. So maybe the senior management of the company is left. Now there is new managers. So what has happened, Lamai? Ideally, what has happened is the management methods have got better. Remember, Lamai, management methods was a determinant of productivity. Under factor productivity management methods. So here the management methods have got better. So you can show that with a shift of your PPC. You can argue the other way around as well. That's why I have made a red box over here. Now here they also say my reduction of inefficiencies කියලා. That means earlier there were inefficiencies. Earlier you were producing on the PP, inside the PPC. Now you're going towards the PPC. That also I will give you a mark. This question itself is a little confusing. There are two correct answers. Which one did you all put, Lava? One way you can say management methods are improving. So therefore, productivity goes up, PPC will shift. Or other way you can say earlier there were inefficiencies. So you were inside the PPC. Now inefficiencies have reduced. You're going towards the PPC. So either way, I will give you a mark. But remember, Lamai, a big mistake that most of you all do is you all draw the PPC, but you all don't explain the PPC. Now here this 8 marks is given, Lamai. 1 mark for the PPC, 1 mark for an explanation. You do the correct thing, but you don't explain. Explanation is nothing big, Lamai. You just have to write what you think in your own words. So here, if I want to explain, I will say, let's say due to the introduction of, due to the change of management, the management methods could have improved. As a result of this, the PPC would shift out. That's it. Or you can say, due to the inefficiencies being removed, then what can you can say? Due to the inefficiencies being removed, now the economy could go from a point within the PPC towards the PPC. In your words, you need to write. Now, even if you have not labeled PPC1, PPC2, that's okay, but the shift and all should be properly done. Then the second one, B is saying adoption of improved technology in both industries. That is easy, Laman. Both the industries have got new technology. So new technology means under productivity will improve. PPC will shift to the right, have a small explanation as well. Third one, inflow of foreign investment. How do you think that is shown now? Foreign investment is coming in for both the industries. How do you show that? Same, right? Foreign investment coming also, you can shift it out. And that is what I have put over here. There was a question. It's wrong if consumer goods and axis. If you have switched the axis now, that is wrong because I have given you what axis to put. So if I have not given the axis, if they have just said take consumer and capital goods, you switch the axis and put no problem. But here in the question itself, they are specifically saying take capital goods as the x-axis, consumer goods as the y-axis. They can cut marks. When marking, I will see whether I cut or not, but ideally they can. As if instructions are given to take it as this, you have to take it as that. You can't switch it. Then the last one, Lava, improvement in labor productivity in the capital good industry. How do you think that is shown? Labor productivity improves. Then Lama, PPC will shift to the right. But it has improved only in the capital good industry. Then PPC will shift to the right, but it will shift to the right only in the capital good industry. So you have to show it something like that. How many of you have got all 4 of these correct? That's a very easy PPC question to start. You have an explanation as well to get all the 8 marks. Good. Then Lama will go into question number 3. That's a more and more PPC questions. Now these are 10-mark questions. They're saying, briefly state the economic effects of the following developments using a production possibility diagram. So you have to remember, Duck explain as well. Now, only PPC is not going to be enough. The first one is saying, now here they have not told you what goods to take. Have they told you what goods to take? No. So you can take any goods you want. But then Duck read the question also and see what kind of things they're talking about. You have to take something relevant. Now, for example, part A is saying drop in agricultural production. Now, when there is a drop in agriculture production, you can't take the 2 goods as mobile phones and clothes. No, man. Doesn't make sense. You can't take the 2 goods as X and Y. So you have to use your common sense. If agriculture production is coming down, then one good is agricultural goods. Other good can be anything. That's okay. They are not going to be strict with that. So that thinking should also come, Lamai. Sometimes the examiner will not spoon feed. You need to know what to pay attention. So what has happened over here? Because of a drought, agriculture production has come down. So how can we show that on a PPC? So here, Lamai. Now these droughts and all these are not permanent things, Nilamai. When there is a drought, I don't think you can. Now, if it's like a very long-term thing, and then the let's say the land gets destroyed and something, then you can shift the PPC index. But that's not what they're saying. The question is saying there is a drop in agriculture production. So something like that, that's more like a temporary thing. So right now, for these 6 months, there has been a drought, so agriculture production has come down. Then it might increase again. But if they say, Lama, there has been a persistent, consistent drought, and then you can shift. Yep, you can show a point moving. But remember, your point should only reduce agriculture goods. Now, if you were producing at, let's say, initially at this point, let's say you were producing 100 agriculture goods and 50 industrial goods. Your x-axis can be anything. Then if they say, Lama, drop in agricultural goods, you can't reduce industrial goods. Industrial goods have to be the same. It's only the agriculture that is coming down from this point to this point. So be very careful. Is a point movement along the PPC, correct? Then industrial goods are increasing along. If you're moving a point along the PPC, that means the other good is. They have not told anything about that. They've not told about the other good increasing, right? They've only said this good is coming. So then moving along the PPC is also. Now, then the second one, power crisis leading to a cut in electric supply every day. So every day now there is a power cut. Now, if it's a small power cut, that's a temporary product for 1 hour current goes, that's not a big thing. But every day, if there's a power cut, what will happen? Productivity will come down, no? Factor productivity. Can people now efficiently work? No, I remember during the that Aragalaya time, I couldn't do my classes properly. Right? Sometimes in power cuts and all, sometimes your TV, your fridge, those products sometimes get burnt. And when all of a sudden when the power comes, something happens. So what happens, Lamai? When there is very frequent every day and there are power cuts, productivity decreases. So when factor product, that's a determinant of the PPs. When factor productivity comes down, you can show that with a shift of the PPs. Now, if it's a very short-term thing, in your paper, if they say a small power cut, if something like that, Lamai, then you can show with a point moving in. So if it's, let's say, a small power cut, let's say a 1 hour power cut, then just a point moving in. But here here they are saying my daily, everyday power cut, power crisis, then you will shift the PV. It's okay if you get it wrong. I'm just getting you to think. These questions are product difficult. Then C. C is saying destruction of infrastructure facilities as a result of war. Now, infrastructure, roads, buildings, these highways, those are infrastructure. Those come under what? Capital. There has been a war, infrastructure has come down, that means capital is decreasing. Capital decreasing, remember it comes under our determinants, factor end of. Therefore, you can shift your PP, C in, and give a small one-line explanation as. So you get 1 mark for the PPC, 1 mark for a small explanation. Then D is saying output increases following the privatization of state enterprises. Yes, when you privatize state enterprises, what happens? That's also a bit of difficult one. Now, let's say there is the Sri Lanka Electricity Board. Yeah, for C, you can even say X and Y, no problem. Or let's say, Lamai, the SLTB, Sri Lanka Transport Board. Let's say, Lamai, they privatized. What's going to happen? Privatized, it means the government owned business. Now they sold it to the private sector. Now the private sector is only owning the SLTB and running. What's going to happen now? What do you think happens to productivity? Do you think when they privatize, do you think the private sector is going to keep 100 different people and give them jobs and do this? Or are they going to, as much as possible, automate the things, come up with the new technology, try to reduce their cost? That's what they will try to do, no? So the moment you privatize something, Lamai, what happens? Productivity increases. How can you show that on a PPC? Productivity increasing, you can shift the PPC to the right. Fine. Yes, these are, don't worry, right? Don't worry if you got this wrong. And support the difficult ones, even this area fellows, they'll get it wrong. Okay. So privatization can lead to improved efficiency. And here's improved efficiency, increased competition, and thereby enhanced productive. PPC will shift. This is B. This is C. This is A, B. Okay, then the last one is saying implementation of a skill development program for workers in both. What happens? Unemployment increases in parallel. Good argument, but let's say we'll not go to that level. But yes, very good argument. If you privatize along with productivity increasing, there can be a fall in unemployment. We'll leave it at that because otherwise it makes more complex. So what happens here, Lamai? Can you tell me the determinant that gets affected over here when they're having a skill development program? Now people are getting more and more skills. What's happening? Is the labor increasing or is something else increasing? Number of people are not changing, Lamai. Earlier also you had 100 people, now also 100 people. So after this skill development program, what's happening? It's that human capital is going up, no? These fellows' skills are the ones that are developed. So human capital improving here, productivity is going up. How do we show that on the PPC? And again, PPC shifts to the, and then you give a small explanation. Remember, Lamai, 1 mark for the PPC, 1 mark for a small explanation. There is nothing big. In your words, you have tried. So remember, anywhere, even in your A-level paper or term exam paper, wherever, if there is a PPC related question, even if they have not asked to explain, Lamai, give a small one-line explanation. Econ, you will not run out of time. Because almost every time there is marks for explanation. Just the PPC won't help. Get the proper goods and figure that out. Then going into question 4. Question 4 is asking, identify the behavior of opportunity cost in each of the following situations. So you just have to write whether this is constant increasing or decreasing. It will take you maximum 2 minutes to do it. So number 1, X and Y are close substitutes. I'll come back to anything that you missed at the end. So that will go, and after class is done, I'll come. So if X and Y are close substitutes, now some people say, okay, if X and Y are both close substitutes, then the opportunity cost has to be constant. But it doesn't have to be that. If X and Y are perfect substitutes, if the two goods are perfect substitutes, then you can say opportunity cost is constant. That means both are the exact same. Now, close substitutes, for example, tea and coffee. So tea and coffee are close substitutes. But do you think the resources used to produce tea and coffee are the same? For tea, Lamai, there is a tea plant. That's a different process. Can you produce coffee with the tea plant? Coffee is a different process. For coffee, you have a different coffee plant. You have a different process there. So just because the goods are close substitutes, that doesn't make it constant. So even close substitutes will have increasing opportunity. If they are perfect substitutes, let's say, for example, Vatavalla tea and some Lipton tea. If they are like perfect substitutes, then you can say under constant opportunity cost. Then the production process is the same. Just because they are close substitutes, you can't say constant. So it has to be increased. Then part B, the number of units of good Y that has to be sacrificed to produce a unit of good X remains constant. That's the definition for constant opportunity cost. Okay. Then C, the production possibility boundary is a straight line. Very easy one. Constant opportunity cost. D, the supply curves of both goods are horizontal lines. Now this you will understand a little bit in detail when we learn unit number 2. In unit number 2, Lamai, do you remember Our supply curve is upward sloping. Price QS. Why is the supply curve upward sloping? Law of supply. Because of the law of supply. Now, what is one reason for the law of supply? Two reasons are there. One is the profit motive. The second reason is the increasing opportunity cost. That's the second motive. So why is your supply curve upward sloping? Because your opportunity cost is increasing. So producer is telling, look here, if I am to supply more and more, to produce more and more, I have to sacrifice more and more of another good. So only if my price increase to cover that opportunity cost, only then I will supply more. So only if the price increase, he will increase the quantity supply. That's why the supply curve is upward sloping. If you all remember unit number 2. So in this question, I am not saying supply curve is upward sloping. I am saying here, I am saying upward is a horizontal straight line. What does that mean? This horizontal straight line means the supplier is willing to increase his supply, his QS, no? At the same price, he is willing to supply more and more and more. Why? Why is he willing to supply more and more and more at the exact same price? That's because his opportunity cost is ideally constant. So that is the story there. Again, bit of a difficult topic. How many of you got that right though? No? I know we have thought to that extent, but did you at least the Kana shot right? Said constant opportunity. Thought increasing opportunity cost and supply is upward sloping, then this should be this. And you figured it out. Yeah. No. Then the last one. E, fixed costs are an important part of production of both the goods. Now, if fixed cost is a very important part, now what if, remember we learned this in unit number 4, fixed cost, variable cost. What is fixed cost? Fixed cost is the cost that doesn't change with the level of output. So no matter how much you produce, that cost doesn't change. So then you will not have increasing opportunity cost. If you have a fixed cost, even you produce more and more and more, still that cost is fixed. So then you might most likely have constant opportunity cost there. Okay. Again, a bit of a difficult. So these are just things for you all to remember. These are kind of difficult. Even if you got it wrong, that's okay. That's what we are learning over. Yeah, I usually make the paper a little difficult. Your past papers and all will be much easier when you all do. Then we'll go into question number 5. Okay. This one I'm not going to talk too much. We learned this very recently. Diagram shows the PPC of an economy, and they're saying, briefly explain what would happen to the current and future living standard, resulting from a movement from X to Y. So you're going from X to Y. So at point X, you were producing a lot of consumer goods. That means currently you are having a lot of very high living standard. But the moment you move from X to Y, what happens? Your current living standard, what happens to your current living standard? When you move from X to Y, increases or decreases? From high levels of consumer goods, now you're reducing your consumer goods, no? So your current living standard will come down. But what do you think might happen in the future now? You have reduced your consumer goods and produced more and more capital goods. Then in the future, what will happen to your future growth and future living standards? Think of my India example. Currently, they are building the metro, so much of traffic, so much of bad. So current living standard, very poor. But let's say 5 years later, now they have a very good transport system. They have very fast trains. What's going to happen? In the future, their living standard is going to be, so current living standard is low. Future living standard will be high. That's the basic story that you have to explain. I've given a more detailed answer. You can read. Then going into question 6. Now, this one was again a big question to show a lot of things in one diagram. Okay, so listen carefully. We'll see how this goes. Question number 6 is saying, draw a production possibility curve reflecting increasing opportunity cost. That means it has to be concave. And take public sector goods as the vertical axis. Now you switch the axes, you don't get marks up. Public sector goods as the vertical axis. private sector goods as the horizontal axis. The economy is currently producing at point A, which is located on the midpoint on the PPC, and show this on the diagram. So the first thing that you have to do is draw this PPC, right? Okay, I'll put a no, I'll draw it with this other, it will waste my time. Okay, so this is the initial PPC, increasing opportunity cost. Okay, and they are saying currently they are at the midpoint A, and they have told vertical axis is public sector goods, horizontal axis is private sector goods. So you have now labeled that. You get 1 mark. Then the second one they are saying is mark the following points on your diagram. Part 1. Point B, which shows production following the election of new government, which privatizes many public sector services but maintains full and efficient employment. What will happen? So there is a new government that comes. What have they done? They have privatized many of the goods. Now remember, Lamai, the two goods are public sector goods and private sector goods. So if the government privatizes means now they are handing it over the private sector. So now what happens? The public sector good production comes down. You are at point A. From point A, you will move to a point towards the peak, not towards. You will move to a point that produces more private sector goods, but you will still be on the PPC because the question says what? Question says, following the election, new government privatizes many public sector services, but maintains full and efficient employment. Still there is full employment, you're still on the PPC, but what's happening? Public sector goods are coming down, private sector goods are increasing. That's part 1. Then part 2 is saying point C where there is unemployment. That's easy. So any point inside that PPC. So inside your PPC, you draw a point and show unemployment. Then point B, where the economy is in a recession. Recession on the same story. Remember I told you the end result of recession is it ends up with unemployment. So again, a point, but better to show that with an arrow. So here, a recession, I draw an arrow, mark point D. Done. Then point E, point D, if it comes after inverse shift, yeah, no problem. Somehow towards the inside of the PPs, you still have drawn only one PP. Then point E, where the state takes over production of all goods and services. So the government, the public sector, the government has taken the production of all the goods. That means there are no private sector goods. Everything is public sector goods. So where is point E then? Here, point E. You produce all public sector goods. There are no private sector. That's point E. And then going into C. C is saying, now draw 2 new production possibility curves on the same diagram to show the following. 1, the position after a devastating war. So after a war, what happens, Lamai? Capital gets destroyed, people have died. What has happened? Your resource endowment has come down. So what can you do? You will shift the PPC inwards. That's after the war. Then, yeah, the second one, no, the proportion, that doesn't matter. Just as long as you've shown an inward shift, that's okay. Okay. Then 2-1 is saying, if you mention war, you have to label it somehow, right? Because how do I know which one is one? You have to at least say PPC 2 or PPC after war, something. Okay. Then, yeah, you can put a number on your own if they're not. No problem. Yeah, the last one. There is an increase in productivity by 50% in the public sector goods and 100% in the private sector goods. So if they have said Lamai 50% and 100%, you have to show that 50 and 100. So here I have shown that by numbers. So they are saying productivity, public sector increased by 50%. So that means now productive increase PPC will shift to the right now. So public sector increased by 50%. Yeah, now 100 will become 150. Now my scale is not ideal, but at least I've shown that with the number. I've shown the 100 going to 150. And same way, private sector, they are saying productivity improving by 100%. That means earlier you can produce 100 good. Now 100% improvement means you can produce 200. So that's all. Yeah. Because I will erase all what I have scribbled in. With others, when I share this thing, the answer will be a little complex. You might not be able to understand. Okay. If you didn't show by number, but showed in the graph. If you properly show that in the graph, then that's okay. Some percentage has to be there now, or at least it has to be like this. Now, for example, let's say you have not shown the number. So then let's say 100% increase now. That means this has to double. No? So your PPC has to go from here to, let's say this. So this distance and this distance has to be the same thing. And that's 100% increase. Then if you're showing a 50% increase of this also, then this has to be half of it. So this has to start from here and it has to go like this. And this is a 50%. This is 100%. Either you have to properly take a scale like that and do it, or you have to put some numbers down. I have put some numbers because otherwise my diagram becomes very ugly. So you can best thing to do is draw a proper scale and put numbers both. So small things to work. Done. I don't think many of you already have done that question fully properly. Anyone who got everything right in that question? Please. No. All the marks were good. No, no, no. Then we'll go to 7. So this question I will be kind of skipping number because this is what we discussed. Okay, next. Okay, there are some people. This question is saying, what are they saying? Are all points on a production possibility curve economically efficient? Explain the concepts of productive, allocative, and economic efficiency with the use of a PPC. So are all points economically efficient? No, all points are productively efficient. Only one particular point is economically efficient. Now you have to kind of explain this. I have not started the answer with that, but maybe even better for you all to start the answer like that. Why is my camera getting off? Okay. So you can start your answer by saying, all points are not economically efficient. However, they are productively efficient. Maybe start with a small line like that. And then now go and explain. Explain what is economic efficiency. This is where this. We learn the story. No? So you can write. Then say to achieve economic efficiency, there are 2 conditions. That is production and allocative efficiency. Then go and explain that. So here 1 mark for economic efficiency, 1 mark for productive efficiency, 1 mark for allocative efficiency. And then 1 mark for diagram and labeling it 1 mark. You get 2 marks for a diagram. That's how you get your. We discussed it, so I'm not going into detail. Then am I going in the next one? Now this again is a bit of a new kind of a question. They're asking, explain how production possibility curves might be used in assessing a country's economic performance. Now, how do you look at a country's economic performance, Lama? You can look at economic performance based on one, has the economy grown? Has there been economic growth? Have they used their resources properly? Have they efficiently used their resources? You can measure performance like that, right? So I have picked just 2 of it and I have kind of explained. So here I'm saying, PPC helps, I've given a small introduction and then I'm saying here, efficiency in resource allocation. So that's a criteria, no? Has the economy used their resources efficiently? So if they have used their resources efficiently, then you will be producing on the PPC. So PPC can illustrate, but you can use the PPC to assess a country's performance. If a country is always producing inside the PPC, that means they are not performing well. So that part you can see. Another one is, you can look at economic growth and development. So using a PPC, if the PPC has shifted, that means the economy has grown. So that's another indicator of good economic performance. You can talk a little bit about economic efficiency that will go under this. We talk about economic efficiency that will go under this, using your resources efficiently. That's a small 3-mark question. Economic decline, fine, yes, that's also correct. So any appropriate these things, or even something like a economic decline, even something like a recession, you can show them. A recession means people are not spending. There is no aggregate demand. Unemployment has increased. So you can show that on a PP. That's a measure of economic performance. No. Then question number 9. Okay. I think this was the question that was not printed clearly, right, in your paper. Was there a problem with this print? I'm not sure. I think everyone's paper wasn't printed properly. Something wrong with my printing place. So I don't know what happened. That's why I shared the PDF as well. Anyway, you just had to, there's nothing big to do in this. You just have to look at this and answer. Answer the following questions based on the PPC given below. What is the, now this is what we learned before in 11. So this is the PPC I have given. I've given a very complex one. So many points are there. So what's the opportunity cost of moving from B to C? We learned this today. So when going from B to C, remember, if they just ask for opportunity cost, don't use any equation. What do? You just look at the total. What are you sacrificing, Lamai? So when going from B to C, you're increasing consumer goods by 40. You're sacrificing capital goods from 800 to 600. So it'll be 200 units of capital goods. That's the first one. Second one is asking opportunity cost of moving from C to B. When going from C to B, what's your opportunity cost? Then you will sacrifice 40 units of consumer goods. Then the next one is asking, what is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods? So because you're producing 600 capital goods, how much of consumer goods can't you produce? When you're producing 600 capital goods, you can produce 80 consumer goods. How much of consumer goods can't you produce? Under 20. That's your opportunity. It's 20 units of consumer goods. Next one is asking, what is the opportunity cost of producing 40 consumer goods? So when you're producing 40 consumer goods, you can produce 800 capital goods. How much of capital goods can't you produce? 200 capital goods. That is your opportunity cost. Then next one is asking, what's the opportunity cost of moving from G to B? And then other one is asking G to F. So if you're going from G to B, what's the opportunity cost? 0. You don't have to sacrifice anything. Sacrificing nothing. Then the next one is asking about G to B. Now, some of you all will think, so when going from G to B, you're reducing consumer goods by 5%. Then opportunity cost has to be 5 consumers. But to actually go from G to F, sorry, not G to B, G to F, there is no opportunity cost now. When going from G to F, that is 550 capital to 25 consumer. From this to this, to produce this capital goods, do you have to sacrifice 5 consumer goods? Does it have to happen, Lavan? Do you have to necessarily sacrifice 5 consumer goods? No, right? Because you can even produce at this point, Lavan. You can increase the production of capital goods even without sacrificing your consumers. That's why we say there is no opportunity cost. Yes, there is no necessarily, there don't have to be opportunity cost now. This is happening because there is some inefficiency. In order to go from G to F, okay, in order to go from G to F, you don't have to sacrifice the consumer good. Okay, so you can do that even without sacrifice. Yeah, inside the PPC, there won't be an opportunity cost idea. Okay. That is that. So both of this opportunity cost is 0 and 0. Then they're asking, like, what is the opportunity cost of when moving from point G to A? Now what is that? Now look at this line. Is the opportunity cost 0 here? When going from G to A, you're increasing capital goods by from 550, you're increasing it to 1000. Can you do this without sacrificing your consumables? Now, G to F, you can go, no. You can produce 700 capital goods without sacrificing your consumables. But can you go from G to A without sacrificing your consumables? You can't. If you're going from G to A, you have to sacrifice that 25 consumables. You have to give that up. Nathang bad. That's why the answer for that is 25 units of consumer. Then the next one is asking, calculate the marginal opportunity cost. And that is where you use the equation. When moving from A to B, go ahead. When going from A to B, you're sacrificing 200 capital goods, gaining 40 consumables. Gained over foregone over gain. So foregone 200, gained, this is 40, no? Sorry, my mistake here. Gained 40. Therefore, what's your answer? Your answer has to be 5 units of again. That will be 5 units of capital goods. Then the next one is asking, calculate the marginal opportunity cost when moving from D to C. So where is D? D is here, D to C. So when going from D to C, you're sacrificing consumer goods by 15. You're gaining capital goods, 300 is going to 600. You're gaining capital goods by 300. No, -5 is also okay. But since it's the opportunity cost, you don't have to give it as minus. Okay. You can say foregone 15, gain this thing. Your opportunity cost is 0.0. How many if I got all of this right now? This is not that hard. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 marks for 9. At least 7 of it. At least 7 out of the 9. We got 9 out of 9. Good. But at least 7, I think it wasn't that hard. Okay, so we discussed it. Okay, so with that, Lamai, the PPC part is done. I'll share these answers and I'll share the slide as well. Something wrong with my camera. I'll share the answers and the slides. You can go through. Next week, we will be doing unit number 2. The first class, you will not have a paper to submit. The first class itself, that demand area is a big one. I have to also teach you that substitution effect, income effect story, which I did not cover in theory. So I will be covering that in the revision class. So next week in the revision, we'll take the entire 2.5 hours and go through demand and elasticity of demand. And the week after that, you can submit your. That means you have some time to catch up on any missed stuff and all, because there is no homework here for next week. Okay. So the tudes will be sent on Friday for those who are registering. Try and register before Friday, so your tudes are sent with the first batch itself. So see you and have a nice day. See you.